Bryce Canyon is known for how it looks. It's hard to describe how awe-inspiring it actually is. It's even difficult to capture it in a photo. It's different from anywhere else. It has so many of these rock spires called hoodoos. What are hoodoos? That takes a geology lesson. Hoodoos are rock spires. They can vary a bit in shape, but they are created over time when the earth is worn away. These particular hoodoos were created when ice and rain water wore away the limestone in this canyon. Now, I've seen hoodoos before, but this is different. The sheer number of them makes the view of the canyon absolutely incredible. Speaking of this canyon is pretty vast. It is about 2,000 feet deep, and they say that you can see for over 100 miles on a clear day. So you're not only seeing these rock formations, you're seeing the beautiful canyon walls and even the surrounding areas. Because of the size of the canyon, there are several different climate zones, so the weather and wildlife is pretty diverse as you travel through the canyon. Everywhere you look, there's something new and amazing to see. There are even ranger programs and other activities available to help you learn more about the area. Now, there are a few ways to experience this whole thing. First, there are a bunch of overlooks along the canyon rim. You can drive from one to the next or take the free shuttle that runs throughout the day. It even stops at the visitor center and goes outside the park to Bryce Canyon City, near the hotels. Some of the overlooks, like Sunset Point and Sunrise Point, are pretty close to each other, and they have trails connecting them, so you can do a little bit of walking around without having to actually hike. Even if you stay at the rim, you'll still get a great view into the canyon, because one of the cool things about Bryce is that from many of the overlooks, you can actually see pretty clearly down into the bottom of the canyon. So even if you can't or just don't want to hike, you really still get a sense of the place. If you do want to venture into the canyon but don't want to hike, you can also ride in a horse caravan into the canyon. I happen to disagree with this mode of transportation, so I'm going to move on to my favorite way to experience any national park: hiking. Bryce Canyon has a bunch of interconnected trails for you to play on. It's quite hikeable too. I said before that the canyon is 2,000 feet deep, but you certainly don't have to hike that far. And if you're up to the challenge, the trails are well marked and well maintained. You can take your time and experience the canyon and the hoodoos from an entirely different perspective. If you have watched any of my videos, you probably know that I like an adventure. So I took a few trails and went from one side of the canyon to the other, zigzagging, going up and down and around. Then I trekked back to my car on the trail at the rim. The best way for me to describe my hike was delightful. It wasn't the easiest hike I've ever been on, but it certainly wasn't the most difficult either. I saw people of all different levels of fitness on the trails. There are simply lots of options for you to customize your hike. Remember that you are at high elevation though, probably higher than you're used to, so take your time and enjoy yourself. Also, there isn't any water beneath the rim, and I only came across one rustic bathroom in my hiking, so make sure you're prepared with water, food, sunscreen, and anything else you think you might want. You'll probably want to stay a few days, at least to be able to experience sunrise. There is a lodge inside the park, plus 2 campgrounds, but you have to book well in advance because they fill up quick. There are also a few hotels and campsites in Bryce Canyon City at the north end of the park, and there are also a few other options for you at the other side of the park. I waited too long to book a room or a campsite inside the park, and I ended up staying just outside the park in Bryce Canyon City. It was a basic room that was clean and had a huge gift shop, a mini grocery store, and a couple of restaurant options. Food in and around Bryce Canyon is pretty limited in variety. There is a lot of your standard American fare, but this place doesn't see a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. It's not near any big cities, and it's not well traveled during the winter because of the snow. I will definitely be bringing a cooler stocked with goodies the next time I take a trip there. Though I did have a really good, tasty dinner at the Bryce Canyon Lodge. Oh, and all of the national parks are doing their part to help the environment. You won't see many disposable plastic water bottles, inside the national parks at least. Rather, they are in the process of installing water bottle filling stations, and they encourage you to bring your own bottle. If you're planning a trip to Bryce Canyon, check out their website on nps.gov. You can learn a lot, from weather to geology, about things to do, and you can download the park newspaper. You get this when you enter the national park, and it'll tell you all about what's going on during that particular season. I'm a photographer, I love to be outside, and I love adventure, so this place was paradise for me. The hoodoos are no doubt amazing, but there's more than that to Bryce Canyon. No matter where I looked, there was something interesting for me to discover. For you landscape and wildlife photographers out there, this is definitely one to add to your to-do list.